And we're live right here in Los Angeles, California. So welcome to another season 3 of Money Talk. This season, we are exploring what it really and truly means to build back better. When the scoreboard isn't in your favor and life throws you a pitch that you never saw coming, what do? Do you get back and take another swing? Do you drown your sorrows in drugs or alcohol? Do you burn out your support group whining until you burn them to the quick? Or maybe you hit a few spin dry rehabs until you hit rock bottom. What makes you push off the bottom before you slip into oblivion? I think what I'm saying here is that success isn't always a straight line. It's a series of innings. Some you win, some you grind through, and even some that actually make you lose the ground you thought you were winning. But for some, it is in those long innings that resilience is the only bat that's in your hand. You don't control the speed of the pitch, but you know it's coming. And all that you have in control of is your swing. Well, today is our third episode in this season 3. And some of you have been watching my progress and my burn down and my resilience. And I'm bringing people onto the show that have had similar episodes in their lives and their stories about their comebacks. But let me just tell you what life has been like over the last 8 months. For many of you, you know that I have a home in Malibu. I think I'm going to say I had a home in Malibu. This is what it was. This was a view from my living room, looking out into the ocean. But on January 7th, that all changed. My entire community and the Palisades fire burned down 5,862 homes in this immediate area. Almost all 485 homes in my community burned to the ground. And yet you look at this, and many of you can probably relate that when something disastrous happens to you in your life, you can feel like all that's left is rubble. And for some, yes. And for others, they say, no, this has to be progress. I will make this look like progress. And slowly, but surely, you take steps and yet another step. And you celebrate the small wins, because yet if you don't, well, then you're always stuck with, oh, it's gone, and you stay there. And I will tell you that the little tiny wins, the wall that gets built, the color coat that starts showing up instead of the brown and the scorched, and the promise of what looks like tomorrow is here today. Because you know darn good and well that what's here today can be gone tomorrow. So I have just one very, very quick, actually I have 2 quick requests. And those would be that if you like what you see, you hear what you see, like and share it. And then stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I can show you how to be strong. Come on, follow me. Heard you looking for a hero. Well, look up, look up, look up, look up.
I got something to give. I have something to say. You know you got something to do.
Welcome to the stage, Linda Kaye.
And how do I get rid of that picture, Neil? Can you take that out for me? There we go. All right. Thank you. You know, they say that the journey is long, but it becomes longer when you don't have the kind of help that you need in your life. And for me, I need lots of help. I'm surrounded by people that are helping me every day. So I thank my support staff. I'm thankful for the people that are around me that give me hope and promise, that continue to pray for me. And I'll tell you that, you know, none of us get to make this journey alone. Today's story is more than just about a comeback. It's about setbacks, including losing the life that you thought you had planned for yourself. And if finding the courage to rewrite the playbook and discovering purpose is on the other side of that pain, that's the reward that you have to keep looking and working towards. Then it's about choosing to step back into the batter's box. But when fear says, sit down, quit, take inventory before you even try again because life is hard, then learning the true meaning of this isn't found in your highlight reel. It's built in the quiet daily practice of showing up. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Michael Bugary, who's going to tell his story about his setback and his comeback. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Linda, for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
We're all grateful to have a moment in the sun, aren't we?
Yeah, right.
It's an exciting piece of life and information, but life wasn't always like that. But let's educate our audience. Let's tell them a little bit about your D1 experience, where you came from, and what happened.
Yeah, so I'm from Northern California, Monterey, and I played baseball at the University of California, Berkeley, and for the Boston Red Sox organization.
Wait a minute. Slow down.
Sorry.
First, UC Berkeley, D1
Yes.
school, right?
Yes.
What position did you play?
Oh, I chose. I did both at first. My main reason for going there was to play first base and pitcher, but I ultimately ended up just being a pitcher. That's the position that I wanted to be, and I was one of those. The pitcher fit my narrative, right? Because I like the attention. I like to be in control and everything. All eyes on me. So the pitcher.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Wait. I love this. I like where we're going with this, Michael, because, we think that we're in control until we're not in control. But I love the fact that, sometimes baseball players, and my daughter was a softball player. She was a pitcher also until she wasn't. An injury took her out in her arm. But the skill set required to it's usually between the pitcher and the catcher, and you can you really got to have that hand-eye coordination, those secret hand motions that tell them which pitch you're going to be doing, and the changeup. But then how did you get recruited for Major League?
Well, on accident, really. So I had.
There's no accidents, Michael.
Well, yeah, okay, not really an accident, but yeah, I had gotten some recruitment out of high school, but then when I got to college, I got injured a few times, and then my junior year, I turned things around. And the beauty of playing at a big school like Berkeley is that there's scouts at practices and seeing other players. So when I got healthy and made these turnarounds in my life in my junior year, all of a sudden they saw me at practice, and then I came back off the radar after being hidden for a couple of years. But,
so they had written you off, and then what kind of an injury did you have? And were you first base when you got injured, or pitching?
Yeah, I was doing both. Yeah, I had knee surgery at the end of my freshman year, and I had to redshirt my sophomore year. It kind of caused a lot of imbalances that it affected my arm. So the next year I went through like a lot of aching and pain injuries that put me in the rehab room for a long time. So
Michael, that's an interesting point that you're making, because you're quite young. You're in your early 20s probably, and we never think as a young adult that we're not going to come back or we're not going to bounce back. We never think that. We think we're bionic. That that in fact. Bulletproof. We're bulletproof. Nothing can hold us down because our mentality says we're going to just march right through it. Was there ever a moment during that rehab of the first surgery that you felt like, okay, that's it. This is it. This is the end of my career. When I get out of college, that's it. I'm done.
No. I think that cloak of invincibility that you talk about, I think it extends even more so for athletes at an elite level, because you have to have that false sense of belief. It's almost denial in a sense, right? Because then the
I'm not really hurt. That doesn't hurt. Oh, you can't hurt.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I'm gonna get through it. I got these people around me. I'll get through it. And then it didn't really hit me later on. Even after I had my arm surgery playing professionally, when they told me that it was over, basically, I still didn't have that. I had that sense of denial in me, and it wasn't really until brain cancer that I'm sure we'll get into later that cloak was lifted from me physically, literally.
So that gets us to college. You get recruited. Now talk to me about was there a trial period? I mean, you're in D1 and now all of a sudden you're in the MLB. This is that you get into your first season. What are you playing in the first season?
So I got to always clarify this because I like to take credit for it, but I didn't. I didn't make it to the MLB. I wasn't still in the minor leagues. I got hurt before I really got there. But my first season was I got shipped to the New York Penn League, and we were in Lowell, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston, and which was yeah. And so I had a pretty good first year. I think yeah, it was all happened so fast because I spent the first couple years in college really, and my biggest issue too is baseball was always a hunt for validation for me, a way for me to get attention. It became an addiction, and so when I didn't have it on the field, I would seek it elsewhere off the field. Then that always hurt me. It always hurt me because I never really thought about things like reputation, right?
Okay,
yeah,
so now slow down. You're borderline risky behavior.
absolutely.
So give me an example of how you would get attention and you were working on getting that attention. Oh, I don't know, in an unhealthy way off the field.
Yeah, so I'm in New York City and I go stay out and wake up in Brooklyn before the game, and I try to find my way,
Oh God.
try to find my way to the field, and then I pitch that game. There's so many stories like that. I woke up in a lot of different cities not knowing where I was.
Okay, that's not just risky behavior. That's freaking crazy risky behavior. So your risk is like off the charts. Most people go on a risky scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to probably take, maybe drink a little bit too much and stay out and party. No, yours is all night. You're trying to find your way to sobriety and then to the game on top of that.
Yeah.
Tell me when were you actually in a game or were you in a practice when you injured yourself the second time?
Yeah, it was in spring training when I got hurt, when I felt that pop in my arm. It was right before my second season professionally, and I was on the AA team in spring training, but that year I had come back in. It particularly hurt because I realized that I was doing some things that I shouldn't be doing. So I decided to make a lot of changes, and I was in the best shape of my life, focused mentally and physically. And when that happened, it was devastating.
I bet. Now walk me through, what does that feel like? What does it look like? What's going through your mind? I did all of this for what?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's hard to say because right at the time that I got hurt and I was in Florida, my dad had a major heart attack back in California. And I think a lot when he had flatlined a few times and my family had huddled around him, and then I wasn't really on inside on the information. And so when he finally woke up, one of the first things that he said was, "Don't let Michael come home." And he didn't say that because he didn't want to see me, or he said that because he thought I was out pursuing my dream. They didn't know that I was hurt. And so I didn't realize at the time how much of a family dream it was, because they were there with me when I was, traveling and sacrificing weekends. And so what that kind of did, it was shut out my family. So I was hurt and kind of really, really alone, not having that and stuck down there. All my friends had gone to play in the seasons. So I was just really miserable. And what I did is when I'm in a place where I turn to solutions that are usually substances, and that's what I did.
So was it just any particular, or all in any of them would do?
In particular at the time, because I'm getting drug tested and things still. So as long as I had baseball in my life, it was like my higher power. So I stayed within the bounds of those rules. Once I lost baseball, that's when everything fell off. But once I had baseball, so I had
there's no more governor, and you were dependent on the external governor, not the internal governor, exactly. The one that would tell us, you know what, you're out on the limb, you might want to move back in. Exactly. You don't have that, and you have this is an interesting comment that you're making, and I think an interesting contrast, if you can speak to it for just a minute. You're talking about your dependence for your sobriety, for the behavior that you've got going on in your life is external. It's as if yes. Somebody other than you has control, and that's a dichotomy, because you're talking about wanting to have control. You didn't really have any, did you?
No, not at all. It's the illusion. It's the illusion of control. It go back to that analogy as a pitcher too. I think I have the control because I have the ball, but the umpire's got the control. My teammates can make errors. There's all kinds of other things that are out of my control, and that's right. I'm grasping onto the illusion of control. Exactly. Yes.
now you've got the 7 players out on the field, you've got, the team down in the dugout,
Yep.
and you've got coaches coming out and telling you how to do something and how to do a change up. And this illusion that you think that you have control, you're just, you're a puppet that somebody else is pulling the strings on, honestly. And you hope that you as a marionette have the right string and the right pull. When that's all pulled out from underneath you, you're now left to your own devices. Do you go back to your family and go, hey, I'm injured and I'm out? Or do you hide that? Because, big players, or, it's natural in nature for an animal to hide when they're wounded so that the other animals will not kill them off. Tell me what's going on.
Well, I think I did both. I did both those things. I went back to my family and I got a bunch of tests done. And I think I had to be open with them because I was still dependent on them, to be honest. I played baseball my whole life. Like I was a spoiled baseball kid. I didn't know how to do anything else. I didn't know how to get a job or anything. I was destined to be a baseball player. I put all my eggs in that basket. So that was kind of the mindset. So that made it harder. But I went back and got all these tests done and multiple second opinions. And basically I was told that my arm probably would be right again. And that's when I turned to painkillers and opiates. And I say this is I like to put a fancy ribbon on my story to say that I was this promising, talented athlete with a bright future that experienced this devastating injury. And then an unsuccessful surgery, he was introduced to painkillers. And that's a great story, like the story where I'm like the hero and the victim, but it's not the truth. I had experimented in the past with opiates and things, and I knew what they were going to do to me. I had always experimented with different things. I liked that stuff. I just never, I just always managed it because I had baseball in my life. But when baseball was gone, I had that didn't have that higher power like we were just talking about inside me anymore. And every poor decision made it easier and easier to make the next one.
So now I have been down a path of self-destruction, and I like to think of it as, you've heard people even describe it as a spiral, that you're stepping down and you're going down and you're like, okay, I'm going to pull myself back up. I am, I'm a superb athlete. I'm injured, but I'm going to get back up. I'm going to take another swing at it, as they say. And yet you found it. The path I think about the spiral staircase, and it spirals down, is we think we're leaving little breadcrumbs to get back up, but where in fact something else is eating them as we go farther down.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that darkest moment for you. You've had a couple of rehabs, you've had a couple of attempts to get back, you've had some, but you realize that your power is not as strong as the one that you've given it to.
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think right when baseball was over, I did that. I went into these, when I heard that news, I just didn't know how to hear that at 23 years old. And so I went into these spirals where I would get motivated, find that internal drive that I had, and train, and then get hurt again. And then go back into another binge for months, hiding, isolating, and then same thing, find motivation, and then go back and do it again and again. And that happened over and over and over again until finally the last comeback attempt, I felt my arm pop all over again. And that's when I really knew it was over. And that's when I stopped, living this dual life of keeping up appearances anymore. And I just, my addiction progressed, and I started using opiates in a different way, and eventually got to heroin. And once that entered my life, there was no capacity to keep up appearances anymore, and my family started to notice. And so that's when I got into treatment. Wait a minute.
Your family didn't notice that you were a little out of it, that you were just you were popping some pills because he's in pain. So and I think this is important for the viewers to understand, we, as parents, we as siblings, I have a brother that took his life, and I never saw that coming. And yet disaster leaves clues, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And could somebody have helped you at that time before you said, okay, no, I'm just going to give in to this, and I'm just going to go down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yes and no. I think, just because here's a little background into it, why I think it was so hard for them, especially early on, when I was a junior in high school, and I was getting so much attention and getting letters from every colleges. I was getting all these people were telling, all these elite travel teams wanted me to play for them. And my parents were getting inundated with so much, he's going to be this, he's going to be so great, he's going to be all these things. And once I got a scholarship to Berkeley, started my senior year, there stopped being consequences to my behaviors. and I could start to drink and do these other things and just get away with stuff. And I learned how to manipulate adults, and I learned how to get away with stuff. Right. And so
that's so good.
that translated later on into that. And I think it's wishful thinking too. I think my parents on the outside saw that I had all this stuff going on, and so they ignored some of that. I mean, what do you do when I'm still having all the success, but I'm still displaying these troubling behavior patterns? And I think they still held on to that hope after that, I think, for a few years, and until it got to a point where I was starting to really hurt them, and I was destroying their lives too. And that's when they
now back up just a second. I think that as a parent that lets their children move into the other parental responsibilities now substituted by a coach are also lured into this false sense of security that somebody else is going to watch my boy. Somebody else is going to keep an eye on him. Somebody else, and they also, because there's this balance act of, they're 18, they're 21, they're moving into a career to the unexplainable. I have to let go because if I don't, his coaches aren't going to be able to. I can't be the guardian angel in his ear anymore. He's got coaches to do this. He's got training. And while they may be seeing that, and this is not offering up an excuse for a parent that will let the child do whatever, and they see all the risky behavior. We see plenty of that around us. But, just turn on any news channel and you see 23-year-olds doing unbelievably horrendous things. But when, as a parent, and then parent looks at the child and says, okay, I'm going to be doing, at some point they're going to step in, like you just said, you've crossed the line, Michael. You've crossed the line. You threw your career away. You didn't exactly throw your career away. It would be easy to say, did the things that you were doing contribute to your downfall? Did they contribute? As I said, for as much success as success is that leaves clues, disaster does the same thing. When you're now recounting and you're talking about this and you're telling the stories of your life, the advice that you're giving to the 21 or the 22-year-old Michael is probably a little different than when you were 21 or 22. What's that story you're telling yourself now to that 22-year-old?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, I don't know what I could say that would make that guy listen. I mean, my head was bigger than
well, you had a
screen,
bat in your hand.
Yeah,
that
right.
you might have needed to get his attention.
Yeah, right. I think to say that a lot is that I was in such desperation for the approval of others. I think that's the whole thing. My validation came from that, and I think I was never willing to be myself at the risk of the approval of others. Right. But going back to what you were saying is, a lot of those things with my arm, it was my fault, right? Personal responsibility, because I was out when I was depressed and I was in that space. I was abusing my medication. I was going out and drinking and partying to get that or spending long nights out when I should have been focusing on my rehab, right? Like I ruined my arm. It wasn't anything else other than that. And I have to come to terms with that. I have to accept that, because only when I can accept that, then I can move forward from it and then be able to give that sound advice. I have to be honest. And that's why I was saying earlier, it's a fancy, cool story if I can say that I was a victim, but I'm not. I was the culprit in that. And once I understand that, then I can go from what you talked about in the beginning of your video is that I can see not what I lost, right? Not what I lost with baseball, but I can see all the things that I've gained. And I can do that. And I can do that in a lot of phases of my life. That resiliency and all that leadership and all the other things baseball gave me really helped me in my darkest moments.
It's interesting. You go back to rehab, and I'm going to take you back to 2014. You finally come into Arizona. You decide this is it. This is it. I'm going to do this. And you've got signs that things are going well until they aren't. What happened?
Yeah. Well, I like to say I went into that rehab willingly, but I went into an intervention, which is like the reverse surprise party. You don't want to walk into you don't want to walk into one of those. But yeah, so I got sent there against my own will, kind of, but I needed to be there. But I went in there with not an open mind. I was never willing to get honest. So I decided to stay out in Arizona after I was done, because I was just too embarrassed to go back home, letting people know that I got.
Oh, that's so interesting. Now, wait a minute. That's progress. Think about that for a second. Were you even in your darkest, in your heaviest use, whether it was drugs, alcohol, or heroin, for God's sakes, did you think about or worry about being embarrassed? I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
that the fact that you can see now you didn't want to go back and do anything else because you were embarrassed is how is that different than when you were in the depths of your abuse?
Well, I did such a. I think this is a lot of addicts get good at this. You get really good at living dual lives and manipulation and keeping up appearances. I mean, so until you don't, right? Until you don't. But but
Right?
but I had a network of people like that I knew that were addicted or middlemen to acquire drugs for me and things, and I had to pay a little bit extra and do a little bit of uh, extra headache stuff in order to keep my anonymity, because the last thing I needed was for people to see me, and I just had this grand ego that I was so important that I hid in my car, or I did it all in the shadows, and then I would go out and teach lessons and pretend to be this amazing guy, but I would be in the shadows in my private
Oh,
life. So I had a lot of help in that
at
sense.
some point you figure out you're a fraud. And when we have a self-realization that either we're not up to the task, we can't do the job, we're not showing up, we're lousy as the partner that we thought we were going to be, even though we took the vows, or we're disappointing our kids, or because of the viral risky behavior, something in you changes. What is that?
Yeah, no, I think if there's that inner voice, I think that we all have it in a sense where
Well, we
it's
all have it, but we
yeah,
don't listen to it, do we?
no, no, we don't. But I think
The
that
one that's screaming back there, yeah,
yeah,
that's the
when we
one.
don't listen to it, I think whether we know it or not, it eats at us. It eats at us internally, and I think that's the basis of depression or anger or whatever it may be. It's the fact that you're being a fraud, right? It's that whatever I firmly believe this. Whether you can try to ignore it with substances, with denial, whatever you manage, it's there, and that's the angst. That's your angst right there. Is not acknowledging that you're living that way.
Two more things enter your life, and I would say that these are two really pivotal things in your life. And pick two in your brain and tell me which one is the most important that became pivotal for you.
Oh yeah. So what happened next is when I got out of the treatment, then I got diagnosed with a medulloblastoma brain tumor, slightly smaller than a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball. Right? That was pretty
This
pivotal.
is like, what
Yeah,
is
that
it?
was.
Is this God? Is it? Or if you're listening, because I hear that voice screaming at me, if you can hear me, what the hell is going on? Right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was all surreal to me at the time, and I think that I was numb to. I was indifferent about all of it. I never prayed to God, or I never like thought I wasn't going to get through it. I was just, I was like, give me some good drugs now at least, and I'll be all right. I think I had that. Without baseball, I felt hollow. I was never willing to do it myself, but I just didn't care whether I lived or died at some point. So I was so indifferent when I got that news. I think just like anybody, I think you get scared. You hear that, right? You got 40% chance to live or 30% chance to live. I mean, what do you do when you hear that at 27 years old?
No, it never occurred to you that the percentages of you dying were even higher on the drugs that you were taking or the abuse that you were throwing your body into. But the reality that you're told you can die from this and there's nothing you can do to remove that baseball in your head, can you? It's almost a cruel reminder of the very thing that that drove you is the very thing that could potentially kill you, because it's a metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it did honestly, because in my desperation to fix my arm, I bought human growth hormone and other anabolic steroids that caused my brain tumor. I misused them without medical supervision. So yeah, what I thought what it was slowly killing me, and that's the gift that tumor was, because it helped me come find closure in baseball. It helped me realize that because we not only physically, because after it stripped me of my whole physical ability, that was right there after all complete nerve damage all over my body. I definitely could never play again. But it also showed me that baseball was never what I was meant to do. It was because I was always trying to be somebody different, right? I was always trying to be somebody other than myself. And so yes, it did kill me, but it also saved me. And that's going back to what I said, seeing things from a different perspective.
Correct.
Of what I've
100%
gained.
correct. Oh my Lord, have mercy. Now you beat this, or you're beating it, but you need unconditional love
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tell me about how you got that.
Oh yeah, so my dog, yeah, I'm a big dog guy, yeah. So no, I was a couple years after my treatment, and my hair had started growing back, and I got some weight back on after all the treatment, and I hated going out in public because everybody would treat me like I was normal, right? I just, don't you know what's going on inside me?
Right,
How can you treat me like
I
I'm normal?
just did this. I just recovered from that. I just
yeah.
did this. I just lost that. Right? We're a big walking scab. We're a
What
wound.
what a great lesson for me to learn than being judgmental, right? Not judging a book by a cover, that we all go through certain things. We're all so much similar than we realize, right? So
It's
that's
so
that's
true.
that's another thing that taught me that the hard way. But anyway, so I was back home, and my mom worked at the military base in Monterey, the Defense Language Institute, and they had just recently adopted a therapy dog, and he was going through his own struggles. His name is Lingo, after language. And my mom thought, because she had a son struggling at home, and he was struggling, that maybe we could help each other. And he came into my life, and Lingo he inspired me to change. When I got outside with him, he brought me out into the world again. He brought me into the moment, not worrying about the past or the future. And I knew that in order to keep him and eventually become his handler, that I had to get better. And I started to work on myself. And that was a huge turning point in my life. And the work that we do now, when I was able to officially adopt him from the Army, I promised that I would continue his work as a therapy dog to help others in the way that he helps me. And now we're a big part of Pet Pals in Cleveland and at the university hospitals. And we visit there all the time. And like I say this all the time, is that it continues to help me and changes the way that I think when I visit the patients, and we sit there and we just have these moments of just raw emotion. They're petting the dog, or the parent, whatever it may be, the petting the parents, or crying because they see their child smile for the first time, or somebody gets a reminder of their pets at home, the inspiration to recover. And these moments that we have there, they just fundamentally change me. And that's the power of helping other people without expectation of something in return. And these dogs, and the program that they have there is amazing. And yeah, it's just, another.
God, that's just truly, truly remarkable, and truly amazing that the story of the baseball, to the struggle of the baseball in your brain, to replacement of that, to a ball that you toss for something that gives you unconditional love. What a journey. What a journey, Michael. I hope you're writing about this.
Yeah. I have my book is it's technically finished. Is with the editing process right now. I got to rewrite a few parts. I thought I had this idea, like, hey, I'm just going to write this 300-page book, and then when it's done, it's done. We'll get it published, and it's not that simple. I'm sure you know this. You've written a few books yourself. So I'm on that process. So it'll be done there soon. So yeah,
that is just incredible. Tell me about Pet Pals and how you're involved with Pet Pals now.
So yeah, so Pet Pals it's a therapy dog program at university hospitals, and it's so cool. They have this like hotline you can call for patients that are there, where they can request a visit from a therapy dog. And so I think the main reason I got involved with them, I think, was there's something that bothered me about my type of tumor that I had. It was extremely rare, which made my recovery challenging. But it was very rare in adults, but common in children. And so I thought, all the stuff that I had gone through.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, all the stuff that I had experienced through, I had some culpability in it, and it was hard, but I can't imagine an innocent kid going through it. So that was the initial thought, that maybe Lingo and I can bring some joy to some of the kids that are going through these hard times, and what it's expanded into, and the people that I've met, and just all these different events that we do, and I speak for them sometimes, and that's the main thing that. Yeah, it's incredible. We were there all day yesterday, and it's just the moments that you have. It's just.
It doesn't replace a career. It enhances the career that you had.
Yeah.
The story and the journey that you've been through, and the destination that you're about to step into.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for this inspirational story. I can't wish you enough success. And I know that at the bottom of the screen, Michael is a motivational speaker, and obviously Lingo is a big part of his life. And Pet Pals, if you would like to book Michael, find him at michaelbugary.com. I think that, did I get that right, Michael?
Yep. Yeah, you can subscribe to you can go into my email list, and I have all these other things that I'm doing that I'll be sending out and stuff. So if you're interested, or just want to talk, I'm good with that too.
Oh, that's just so inspirational. Michael, thank you so very much for joining us today. You have made Money Talk a magical moment for us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
And that's a wrap. I can't believe that the 3 guests that we've had at the beginning of the season, so many people are actually responding, calling, saying those stories are just amazing. So thank you for your support. Thank you for all of the joy that these guests and the speakers and their motivation to build back better is bringing to all of you. Thank you again, and join us next week.
Season 3 of Money Talk isn't just about money. It's about recovery, resilience, and expansion, so you can build back better. Your house doesn't have to burn to the ground, but if your business or your life has, and you're ready to share your story, I want to talk to you. Contact me at LindaKay360 or call me at 424-395-2885. Remember, your setback is a setup for a comeback. And I promise you, you'll inspire others to get back up one more time with your story.